This is Miko from ML Sound Lab, and this is how I make programming drums super easy and fast. Let's check it out. So first of all, we need to establish what we're doing here. Do we have a song in mind? Do we have riffs? Do we have a melody or something that we're building on top of? Or do we have nothing? Like if we have nothing, like I have here, this is the perfect way to do drum programming. This is where we're actually building the song with the drums, and this is how I do it many times. Not sure if you guys know my work, but for every single release that we do here at ML Sound Lab, I actually have to write 1 to 3 songs, and this is kind of the fast way that I do it every single time. Very simple and easy. Now we're starting out with a completely empty session and we have nothing ready. What is the thing we start out with? I would say it would be the tempo. Songs can have varying tempos, but generally they follow the main tempo, and the way you choose your tempo is kind of personal, but I personally completely believe in movement in music. Music was built kind of around dancing. It's not that these days for many genres like metal and rock, but still we have head nodding and we have mosh pits and stuff like that. So many times movement, physical movement and reaction to a certain tempo is very important for me personally. So let's for example think about a head nod and how fast you'd actually nod your head. Now personally I use tap tempo to determine what kind of a tempo I want to use for a song to begin with. So if I want to have sort of a head nod kind of riff, I will actually nod my head to the tempo that I think would be a good riff. It's lame, I know, but if I tap in this tempo of my head nod, we will get the tempo. So we're getting 90, 91. We can then go to the tempo track and change the tempo to be 90. And now we have that head nod sort of as the tempo for the song. Very easy and simple. Okay, so we have nothing here. We have no instruments. We don't have a riff idea. We have nothing. So we're gonna start out with just adding ML drums. And we're just gonna be using the default sounds right now, not diving into ML drums right now. Let's just add some empty MIDI here, and it's gonna be in 4/4 time signature. If you don't want to go into theory, let's not go there right now because this is supposed to be an easy tutorial. We will kind of loop a 4-bar loop here, and this is where I will kind of start to brainstorm the ideas for a riff. Now, if I press D on Cubase, this is my own shortcut, so I'm not sure if that works for everyone else. We'll get to this drum kind of drum map, and in here we can actually draw. Now, the next lame thing you need to know is how you actually count a beat. So this is how you do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Only saying this because I'm gonna be talking about the 1 and the 3 and stuff like that, so you know what I'm referring to. Now, pretty much all the riffs start on the 1, meaning that you will have a kick drum on the 1. That is just a general rule. I personally don't do this, and whenever I don't do this, when I have the kick before the beat or after the beat, people always say that the riffs sound weird. So I don't recommend to do that, but I personally do it sometimes. Now, there's a kick on the 1. Many times you can add the kick on all the ones. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, that is very basic, and most music out there does this specific thing. Now we're talking about the pulse of the music. We already kind of have the heartbeat when we have the kick. So we're just concentrating on the kick and snare, and that will be the majority of your drums. Everything else is sort of in the background, so just pay attention to the kick and snare at this point. Now, the most common place where to place the snare is on the 3. So if we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, you would place the snare on the 3. And now we have this kind of a pulse. And that is still very basic and boring, but much of music out there is based on this kind of a rhythm. Now, the next place where you could actually place the snare is on the 2 and 4. So if we just put the snare on the 2 and 4, we have this. And that is already sort of a faster tempo and gives you kind of a groove. And now obviously the next thing would be to have the snare on the 1 and the 3, and then you would have no kick. So we would actually place the kick somewhere else, for example this way, and actually here as well. So we sort of have like a reverse type thing going. With this tempo, it doesn't really sound that great. So what you actually want to do is have snare on all the beats, and then have some sort of a kick pattern going behind it. So the most simple kick pattern there would be something like this. Or the opposite. I noticed that I'm going pretty advanced already, but this is just to demonstrate the pulse and kick, so this would be the other option. These are the basics. This is kind of the different pulses you can create with the snare. This is a little bit more advanced, but the idea here was you can put the snare on the 3, on the 2, 4, or all the beats, and then have some sort of a kick pattern behind it. Okay, let's get back to the basics where we have the kick on the 1 and the snare on the 3. This is the basic beat that you have. Lame and boring, I know, but much of music is built on top of this. Now, what makes this boring is that it's repetitive. So many times you will start to think about kick patterns once again, and this is what sort of creates the pulse. If you don't have a riff idea, then you can kind of use math and polyrhythms to create some interesting stuff with the kicks. I know some of you might have heard of polyrhythms and think that they're a progressive thing and super advanced. Really they are not, because many basic music uses polyrhythms to make it more interesting, like a 3-4 on top of a 4-4, or a 5-8 pattern on top of a 4-4. Okay, that is probably too advanced to some of you people there, but I will demonstrate what kind of interesting stuff you can make with very basic polyrhythms. Polyrhythms are very simple. They get taught to people here in Finland and Scandinavia, at least in school, where part of the kids clap in 3/4s and the other group of the class claps in 4/4s. Not sure if that happens in America, but that is why we made Gent. So if we have a 3/4 pattern on top of this 4/4 beat, we would place the kick every 3 beats. Very simple explanation. So let's count to 3, and every time we say 3, or actually every time we say 1, we will actually place a kick there. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and so on. So every time we say 3, we actually place a kick there. And you never want to have really kick and snare at the same time. That is kind of an indie thing maybe. you can do that, but many times it just doesn't sound that great, especially with real drummers, because it's very difficult to sync those two to be at the same time. So now we have a polyrhythm. Whoa, very simple. This is already a much more interesting pulse. Okay, that is very slow, but you can kind of get the idea if we double the tempo. So this is something easy you can do, just 90 beats per minute. Double that, it's 180. So we just double the tempo. Probably better to have it that way anyway. So now I'm sure no one out there is thinking that this is a very advanced polyrhythm. It's a very simple polyrhythm, and this is a very common beat that you'll find in many songs, many pop songs. It's very simple. Now, a little bit more advanced polyrhythm would be a 5/8 on top of a 4/4. So let's do that. Same thing as before, but instead of counting to 3, we're counting 8 notes and splitting it in 5. So I'm not gonna count it because it sounds so stupid, but this would be the 5/8 mark. So instead of counting a polyrhythm of 3/4, we're counting a 5/8 on top of this. Super geeky, but once again showing you a way of creating a more interesting rhythm base for your pulse without really thinking about any kinds of riffs or anything. So this is a 5/8 polyrhythm on top of a 4/4, just a pulse with the kick and snare. Okay, now this is the point where I would generally start to think about what kind of a riff I would play on top of this. Or if I already had a riff idea, I wouldn't be doing this pulse thing anyways. I would be building this pulse on top, following that kind of a rhythm of the guitar. But this is already sort of some kind of a pulse that we can use and build a song on top of this. So if we just use this rhythm and don't really think about it that much, we'll just start adding cymbals here. So many times I will use an open hi-hat. And you would place them on every beat. So now we have hi-hat for this, and I'm gonna turn off the click now because we don't need the click because we have the hi-hat essentially doing the same thing. Now, if we're playing hi-hats, it's kind of too harsh to just have it on full velocity all the time. So I will lower the velocity for the hi-hat. Very simple to do. Okay, and now remember when I talked about the pulse of the snare? Let's keep this as it is, but I will copy everything we just made and paste it here. And actually I will make the MIDI slightly longer and loop this next section and place the hi-hat on a crash, for example. And now, potentially completely ignoring the snare we have already, I'm gonna change where I would place the snare. So let's put the snare on the 2 and the 4. And then whenever we have snare here, I'm just gonna put them on the kick track now to keep the same rhythm. So I hope that wasn't too complicated. I just removed the snares from where they were on this side, and then just placed the snares on the 2 and 4. And wherever we did have the snares, I actually placed them as the kicks. So now we have this. Almost like a punk rock type of a thing. So now we have essentially the same rhythm playing 2 very, very different sounding drum parts. And it will work on top of the same riff, just a very different vibe, just by kind of changing the placement of the snare. So this is what we had before, and then you'll hear what we have now. So that could be potentially like on the verse you'll have drums like this. And then when a riff kicks in, you'll kind of change up the drums to be like this. Just makes it so much more interesting, and it's very basic what I'm doing right now. I hope that it's clear. I just am building a song essentially on top of theories, not really writing music in any sort of way. Now, at this point, I would highly recommend you pick up your instrument or sing or whatever you use for writing songs and kind of try and come up with something on top of this idea. I'm just gonna copy sort of the idea that I have here and turn it into a song. So, for example, let's take this this first part and turn it into an intro. I really want to make it sound as small as possible. So I'm gonna change the symbol to be like a ride. And then the velocity, I want to make it as slow as possible, so the drummer is playing lightly. So and that is enough for an intro. Potentially I would have a pause here before a riff starts in at here. So and this is where a riff would start, and now there's full velocity and everything. So we're playing on the crash. Playing that 2 times. Now, even if the riff continues, this is where you want to change things, because it gets boring if you repeat it all the time. So I'm just going to copy paste this same portion from here and change the symbol. And let's actually make this a lot longer so there's no problem here. So we have playing twice, and here we're going to change the symbol halfway out to the next crash. And also the cool thing you can do here is change the pulse once again. So I'm actually going to remove all the kicks and snares from here and go back to the original groove that we had here in the beginning, and use the same rhythm on top. And this way we can get so much more out of that same rhythm and make it more interesting. So the key here is to change it up a little bit slightly all the time. And to make it more powerful, I will always add another crash when the beat when the repetition starts again. So here when the riff starts, it's gonna be hitting 2 crashes. Same here. And same here. And here. Let's have a listen to what this actually sounds like. So we have the quiet intro. Then going to the riff. continuing on this but changing it up. Kind of very simple at this point, and then there would be a verse of some kind. Many times I'll opt to do kind of a close hi-hat thing, so I'm just copying the intro from here and adding it here, and then going to a close hi-hat with the cymbal. And now the velocity doesn't have to be this kind of extreme, but not full on, because it's a verse. We kind of want to quiet it down. I'm gonna copy paste this 2 times. And in this case, when a new part starts again, I want to have something different as the first cymbal. So maybe like an open hi-hat. Now a cool thing you can do here is to use a different hi-hat, because we have a tip and edge hit on the close hi-hat. So I'll pick every other of the hi-hats and put them on the other tip or edge. Probably you wouldn't do this in real life, but that sounds pretty cool. Just need to find it somewhere. There it is. So now we have this. So if you think about the drummer actually playing the drums and on the hi-hat, every other time the drummer would now be hitting with the tip of the stick, and every other time it'd be hitting the edge with the edge of the stick. So now it sounds like this. And another open hi-hat there. Pause. And this is obviously kind of writing the song at the same time when doing this stuff. So just gonna play the main riff again. And let's see how long the song is at this point. Okay, it's already over 1 minute if we do it exactly like this. So many times the songs that I make have the social media limitation of 1 minute. So this would already be kind of all that I would do personally for the song. Obviously when the song starts to shape up, I will change things here, but this is kind of a good foundation for the drums. Now it would be very boring if we actually play the same exact riff again. So one cool thing to do here is potentially start out with the later portion of this riff, and because it's kind of half tempo with the pulse of the snare, we can go even further and half the half tempo, if that makes any sense. So what I would do is pick all the snares from this later part, turn them into kicks, and then just place the snare on the one, so to say. So we have this. I hope this makes sense in the end. I'm doing a bad job of explaining what I'm doing here. But now we sort of get this halftime vibe for the end of the song. And let's change for a clash. Okay, and potentially it will sound different if we use a different crash for sort of the first part as well. So now coming from the verse to this kind of ending riff. Now, you don't play the China that way. Sounds very unrealistic. So you would actually take away every other China hit from here. So that even emphasizes the half-timeness more. And then let's add a final kind of a boom here. Let's put it on. No. Like those two cymbals. So I'm gonna pull up the drum view of EmuDrums so you can actually kind of see what we actually did here. So this is EmuDrums, this is the MIDI map. Let's have a look what we just created here. I'm going to change the preset. Okay, and that's pretty much it. Very simple, very easy, just kind of following a few principles and creating a pulse, creating a rhythm. I know metal music, really you don't think about dancing, but many of the good riffs out there really make you move, not necessarily physically, but in your head for sure, or nodding your head, definitely. Kind of try and come up with a pulse that is interesting and unique. This isn't really that interesting or unique because it's based on a very, very basic polyrhythm. But writing a song on top of this polyrhythm may give me some cool results, and that will be the next thing I will do. But the part of making drum programming super easy has been this portion. Thank you so much for watching the video, and I truly hope this helps you out with programming drums. It really is very simple and easy, and it's all about experimentation. Right now I don't really have any fills, I don't have anything like that. I just have the basics laid out so that I can start writing a song. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope this helps you guys out, and see you on the next one. Bye bye.